Welcome to our Talking Heads podcast. As many of our listeners will know, Buckinghamshire Business First has been running the Buckinghamshire Business Awards for over a decade now, and the awards provide an amazing opportunity to turn a spotlight on some of the great businesses we have in the county. And one of those businesses who's become more and more engaged with our Buckinghamshire Business First community as a result of the awards is Origin. From being a finalist in the Innovative Enterprise category in 2014 to being Company of the Year in 2022. Victoria, welcome. Would you like to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, Origin, and your amazing team?
Thank you, Philippa, and thank you so much for having me on here. It really is a great pleasure, and looking forward to talking to you about Origin and our involvement with Buckinghamshire Business First. So just a little bit about the business and me, I suppose. I and my cousin Neil, we started the business back in 2001, Origin, and it was really born out of an issue that really our fathers were kind of facing at the time, who were in the construction industry. And they were facing all sorts of problems with lead times and issues with their suppliers of doors and windows. I was fresh out of university, having studied physics at uni, and I was coming along for the ride to fill in the gap before I got a proper job.
As you do.
As you do. But it sounded like a bit of fun to get involved in, and well, needless to say, it turns out it's become a labour of love, really, and what I sort of classify as my first baby. I've got two others, who are two boys at home as well, but Origin's my first one. And really at that beginning stage, it was a funny time. My uncle Neil's father is a great one for just saying, well, can't we just do that? Can't we just get involved in that and do it ourselves? And actually in this instance we thought maybe we can, and Neil went about sourcing a door and window company to work with, and we actually looked at designing our own bifold door, which was the main product that the construction company that my dad and my uncle were running. They were using that product more and more. It was becoming more popular, and they were building a lot of indoor pool structures at the time, and obviously very popular to have that on your indoor pool, bringing that outside in environment, bring the sort of the garden and the pool room into one area. And so we decided to design one. I mean, it's bonkers really when you think about it. I was 22. I didn't really have a clue about what I was doing at all, quite honestly, and it's funny, that sort of blissful ignorance that you float around with when you're that age, and you don't worry about all the pitfalls and problems, you just crack on. And we had a loan guaranteed with the bank, and that was really to fund the start of the business. I think my father and my uncle were pleased that the kids had something to keep them occupied with for a little while, and no one in their right mind really thought at the time quite what Origin could turn into. And all we knew is that we'd been brought up with some pretty decent values as a family. Treat people respectfully, behave in an honest manner, do what you say you're going to do, and hopefully, you know, we've been through the education system, come out of it with a few skills at the end. But really, it was just a lot of hard work and doing the right thing by our customers. So we sent our first mail shot out, got an incredible response. And our ethos at the beginning, and it's still exactly the same today, was to really do what you said you were going to do. When a customer asks you for something, do it. If they need a brochure, send it. If they order a set of doors from you, for goodness sake, deliver it in the time frame that you promised it when they originally ordered. And it's some really basic things that we've just done well, and stuck with that. So that was really how Origin. That was back in 2001. So we were 20 years old. 2002. So 20 years old last year, and then since then a lot's happened. We've added additional products. We've got a team of best part of 400 people. And again, we've applied what I think are the real basics of business. You can make it really complicated if you want to, but quite frankly, it's that all gets too much. I think you just stick with the basics of what you need to do. We sometimes joke saying we sell some stuff, we make some stuff, we deliver some stuff, and we just do all those things quite well. Which sounds a bit simplified, and yes, there's all sorts of bits in between, but essentially that's what we do.
And that's the recipe for success, isn't it?
It is.
Did you start up in Buckinghamshire, in Wickham, or
so we actually started up, we were actually in Berkshire, so we were in Englefield Green originally, and it just so happened the door and window company that we bought a very small door and window manufacturer in Englefield Green, and it had for want of a better word, a shed that they were manufacturing, and it was tiny. It was 1,000 square foot, this place. So small that you had to walk outside with a length of aluminium to turn it round to come back in again, because it wasn't actually big enough inside to turn a 6 metre length of aluminium around. So we actually started there, and we weren't there for very long. We outgrew that place very, very quickly. And we moved to our site in High Wycombe, which was on the Cressex Business Park. It was a new development at the time. We took the unit on, it was brand new. And that was in 2006 we took that on. So that's when we moved into Buckinghamshire. But from a family perspective, I actually grew up in Hertfordshire, but I've moved to Buckinghamshire since. And then my uncle and Neil, our CEO, he's lived in Buckinghamshire his whole life. So from a personal point of view, Bucks has always been part of that. So it was lovely to be able to move the business back into where we all knew growing up as well, and being nearby. So much nearby that he's passed away now, my grandfather, but he was 100 when he passed away a few years ago, but he used to come to the business every single day. He'd clear the bins out, he'd take the tea towels and go and wash them and bring them back, and it's just lovely to have that. And he's lived in Buckinghamshire since the 1970s, so it's lovely to be part of that community, and we've kept the business in Bucks ever since. It's been great for us. And I know the work that Buckinghamshire Business First do with the businesses around here, and it is the entrepreneurial capital of the country. And but you get a lot of support. We've been very well supported in our time here, and we certainly don't expect to ever be leaving Buckinghamshire. That's for sure.
And you're on that road up to Wycombe Wanderers, aren't you? In terms of every time I go up there, your units seem to be growing. It's sort of it's you're nicely positioned there.
Occupational hazard.
Yeah.
We are, and actually that's ended up in a really lovely relationship, being near the football ground as well. We've been lucky working with the various different pension funds and things that have taken on those units over the years, but we've always had a good relationship with them, and have really become a bit of a stalwart for that area. And during that time we've built a relationship with the football club as well, which has been fantastic, not only from having our name plastered all over their shirts and stands and things, but just that working in the community and actually being able to get first-hand experience of the people in our area, who are, lots of people from Wickham work for us, and it's wonderful. And we've got some brilliant people here. We've got Buckinghamshire University, who are have just gone up and up in the ranks in terms of the education that they provide, and the football ground's been fantastic for that. We've got a great relationship in terms of the grounds, and being able to, from a logistical perspective, us using their facilities for various some of our work parties we've had there, right through to actually engaging with people from the area, which has been so important.
which is really good. And Buckinghamshire Business First has recently got sort of re-engaged with Wycombe Wanderers,
Yes.
and it's been a really interesting experience. And we had one of our board meetings, didn't we? Our last board meeting we had
We
up
did.
there. They've got some nice space that's really easy for businesses to tap into. You know,
Yes.
nice meeting rooms and whatever else. So yeah, a real asset, I think.
Absolutely.
So we've many of the businesses in Buckinghamshire, we've been through the tough times of COVID, and now we're slap bang in this cost of living crisis. How did COVID and all that came with that, and then Brexit, how did that affect Origin and your thinking, and how, because you continue to grow through what's been a really challenging time?
Yes, it's absolutely hugely challenging time for all businesses, and I don't think we were any different there. I remember when we were told as a nation that we essentially had to just shut the country down.
Yeah.
It was hugely worrying, and I think our business has been built on that family piece, and not just our direct family, but all the people that work for Origin. I don't know what the exact statistic is now, and I must go and look into this, but at one point not too long ago, 75% of everybody who worked at Origin was related to somebody else working at Origin. So it was possibly a bit incestuous, but yeah, lots and lots of people related to each other, as well as the family in terms of, you know, starting the business. And so when that happened, and you start to think through the implications of shutting the nation down and what that means for Origin and closing the factories down. I mean, I'm terrible. After having 2 children, I cry at anything and everything. So yes, I try not to watch the news. It gets far too depressing. But no, but I'm on a much higher emotional state now, which is fine, you know. And
Yeah.
But I remember such a sinking feeling, and the fact that we had all those people that are dependent on us for their livelihoods, and it was a huge worry to me and to the wider business. And I did. It was one of those moments where you sort of have that quiet contemplation on your own, and it really was, yeah, it's something I hope I never have to experience again. Luckily, that was fairly short-lived in terms of, I think, the way we've always thought Origin is, okay, the world throws all sorts of things at you all the time, personally and professionally, and you can spend time worrying about it and, you know, wallowing in self-pity and all of those things, but essentially you've got to take action and you've got to do something to make the best of the situation.
Yeah,
and that's really what we did.
Yeah, 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it, isn't
How
it?
you react.
Some great sayings.
Absolutely. And I'm a firm believer of that. It's the only thing you can control is your reaction to anything.
So as a business that had built up its reputation on delivery, so you promise this and you'll do it. You know, you'll send that and you send it. That must have been really hard during COVID and the supply chain interruption that came.
Yes.
Because for reasons beyond your control, you were going to start finding it difficult to deliver on promises. How did you cope with that?
Well, funnily enough, Brexit, for all of our different opinions on it, in some ways that set us up really ready to tackle COVID. So because a lot of our aluminium, or all of our aluminium, comes from Spain, and so we'd already put various plans in place with Brexit looming, and had stockpiled aluminium and made sure of our supply chain because of the problems that Brexit could potentially cause. So funnily enough, Brexit didn't really ever cause a massive problem for us. So we had this stockpiling, and when COVID hit, which, you know, we seemed to go from Brexit being the worst thing ever to Brexit not really being a bit of a much ado about nothing in the end. So we were in quite a good position. I think our ethos as a business has always been to treat people respectfully and honestly. So we've always built good relationships with, whether it's the people that work at Origin, whether it's our customers and our suppliers. So we had good, strong, solid relationships with our suppliers. And I really do think that held us in great stead to tackle something like COVID, because they really feel part of what we're trying to achieve as a business. So don't get me wrong, supply chain was an issue and it was tough, but we leveraged that great relationship we had. And honestly, I think we were put at the top of the pile when they were looking at which companies should we deliver to and which companies should we help. We were up there because our suppliers enjoy dealing with us, which is lovely, and we make sure that's reciprocated. So we were fortunate in that sense that we built those relationships. So supply chain wise, we were really the only door and window manufacturer that was still able to manufacture and supply, still keeping within your lead time, not ours philosophy, which is delivering when the customer wants it. So we did have, our on time and full delivery wasn't quite as good as it had been in the past. We did have blips with supply chain, but they were fairly short and sweet and few and far between, which was great. So we were able to continue to do that. And I think that all the time and energy and money that we'd spent building our brand over that time too really held us in good stead for that period in COVID. People couldn't physically go and look at products in showrooms. They were ordering Origin anyway because of the name, because they trusted the brand. So all of that together really just gave us this reputation, and we were able to build the business on that. And actually, whilst many businesses suffered hugely during that time, we were incredibly fortunate to be a business that actually saw some of our biggest growth during that year. So it was a funny time, because you didn't want to make too much of a song and dance about it, because very well aware that there's plenty of businesses and people that this was not a good time for.
No, and we picked that up at Buckinghamshire Business First. There were people who were holding their own. There were winners, and there were people on the edge. So it is that broad spectrum that you're going to fit somewhere into that broad spectrum. So you spoke about growing a family business. There's a very, very high percentage of family businesses in Buckinghamshire. You've gone one step further in that actually in your employee base, it sounds like you positively encourage those maybe not linkages to your family, but linkages within which again is quite unusual. Having a family-owned business is not without its challenges. Having family within your payroll is not without its challenges. Any hints and tips for surviving it and actually thriving in that environment?
Sure. I don't claim that we have any great tips and tricks to necessarily offer, other than, and I think we do it with everybody that works at Origin, we really encourage open and honest and candid conversation within the business, with a genuine intent to want to help and support people. So you can tell someone or speak to someone when it's not going quite the way you want it to, but in the same turn, they know you're doing that because you want to help and support them, rather than point the finger and blame.
Yeah.
And we certainly do that as a family. Don't get me wrong, we have our moments, and I think actually we quite enjoy a bit of an argument from time to time, as long as you can walk away and know that none of it was intended personally. But it's important to be able to have those candid conversations. I think when you skirt around the subject and pretend everything's okay when really it isn't, and then it's not until you get to the point where you're so frustrated with that person and don't necessarily now want them around anymore, that it's too late. If you just had that conversation in the beginning and spoken open and honestly about it, you could probably in most instances work together to solve the problem. And I just wish more people would do that, and also understand as a person what you need to do to be able to react to that. You don't have to take everything personally. You can. It should be part of your growth and development as an individual to be happy to take that constructive criticism. But yeah, it's a funny one, because that being able to debate and disagree
in a
feels like
healthy
it's a bit of a
environment.
lost skill.
Yeah.
And it's really important to do that. There's nothing wrong with having a different opinion, doing something a different way, and it's okay to walk away and say, actually, okay, we agree to disagree, but essentially we still want to achieve the same outcome, so that's okay. So yeah, there's a
It sounds like
healthy.
it's acting as a glue rather than, because it can act as a stress point, can't it? But equally, in listening to you, it has the capacity, certainly within your workforce, to act as a glue as well.
It really does. I think if you
Yeah.
can make a family business work, it's a very powerful piece, and I think it also engages the rest of the business to feel part of that in some way. And it, like I said before, it's my first baby, and it really does feel like that. You feel very protective over the business, but most importantly, the people. But when it is your family, you do the best by them, don't you? You don't say yes to your children all the time because you want them to be your friend. You have to guide them and support them and help them, and if people feel that within the business, whether they're family members or not, and they really understand what it is you're trying to achieve as a company, then I think you've got all the ingredients there for success. And it's certainly helped us over the years, that's for sure.
Now you've won several awards over the last decade. So obviously an organisation who sees the benefit, although it can be hard work doing the application. So as I said before, we met you in 2014 for the Innovative Enterprise category, and you were a finalist there. And then you won the Queen's Award for Enterprise and International Trade. And actually culminating for us last year when you became the business of the year. But you've also won winner of best company to work for in Bucks and various other things. What for you? What are the benefits of awards and the return on investment for all that time you put into doing the applications?
Sure, yeah, it does take a huge amount of time, and I'm personally very fortunate to have a great team who work together to deliver on putting the information and what's required for some of those awards together. So it's certainly not me doing it by myself, that's for sure, thank goodness. But you're absolutely right, there does need to be a return in some way, and sometimes the return is tangible. You get to put the accolades on the bottom of your emails, on your website, and hopefully in some way that encourages your potential customers to want to buy from you, and that's wonderful if it does that. And then there's also the sort of less tangible benefits, which are certainly our people feel hugely proud to be part of that whole experience, and when we win awards, it's something that the whole company celebrates together. Because it really is a team effort. It really doesn't get won by one person or a group of people. It's everybody within Origin doing the best they can on a daily basis. So I think that's probably the most important part for us, is to really give everyone the opportunity to step back and realise the great work that they've done, and remember that there's this bigger picture, and whilst their job might be in the nitty-gritty of it day to day, what they're doing is helping something far bigger than that, and understand their piece of the puzzle and their purpose and part that they play in that process. Lots of P's there, sorry. And a bit of a tongue twister.
You can get lost sometimes, can't you? And it's really good sometimes to stop, reflect.
Yes.
And when you have to do an application, you are reflecting on wow, did we really do that? We have, yeah.
Absolutely. And for us, when we're doing them, or if we're going to present to a board of people who are judging you for that particular award or category, it's a really lovely moment to remember how far we've come, and why we're sat there putting our best efforts across as to why we should be the ones winning the award. And yeah, it's a really enjoyable piece, and just reminds you from time to time why you do what you do.
So I'm really conscious that we're running out of time. I'd quite happily talk to you about exporting, trading internationally, and everything. So I think we're going to have to catch up again. But we are running out of time. It's been a real pleasure catching up with you, Victoria. I think Origin are an amazing team, and I hope you continue to go from strength to strength. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippa, and thank you for having me on here. It's been a real pleasure, and yeah, love to talk again. And thank you for all your support at Bucks Business First as well. It really has. You've seen us come right through over the years, and we really appreciate all the support that you've given us too.